In this video, we're going to be going through step by step, hour by hour, essentially how to navigate the conversation around the deal clock sales methodology. And we'll show you a few tricks and tips along the way of how this can work from a decision support point of view. It's very much a consultative sales approach. So I'd recommend that you get yourself comfortable, grab a notepad and pen, take some notes here, because this is going to be a great video to educate you through a full sales process that works beautifully well for project selling. What we're going to move into now is the deal clock sales methodology, which is essentially the clock looking structure around the outside. And this is where we actually take you through step by step a really powerful sales process that's been backed by human behavior and psychology, and it allows you to see the play. And when you follow these step by step, find that the sale progresses smoothly, easily. The client doesn't necessarily feel like they've been sold to, but more of it's collaborative discussion that allows them to get to the end of the conversation, goes, this is a no-brainer, we should do it. You'll also see down below, there's an attachment to the Future of Selling book. And essentially what this is the deal clock in its entirety that you can follow step by step. So if there's a couple of parts of the deal clock, a few hours, so to speak, that you want to dive a little bit further into, I'm going to be walking you through the process step by step and giving you a high level view. This would be a great book for you to download below and run through some of the key chapters that you know help you just tweak your game in a few of them, because you'll notice that how well you do some parts of the deal clock process, how well you do some of the hours, will actually determine how well you do it later on, and we'll cover that too. To give you a super high level view of the deal clock, you'll notice that 12 o'clock right up the middle is deal time. That's when the bell gets rung, you celebrate. That's when the deal has been signed, you know, money's paid, like we're all celebrating, it's all good. Therefore, 1 o'clock is the furthest away from the deal, and we start there and we progress all the way around clockwise until we get back up to the deal, and hopefully we can repeat the cycle over and over again. Hence why it's a circle process rather than a linear process that we often can get stuck into, because let's face it, in project sales, a lot of the time there is an opportunity for future business, repeat, referral. So you want to think of it that it's a never-ending cycle that you're working through. Super high level. We're going to start even by breaking it into quarters. So there's quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, and quarter 4. And if you want to remember this is the acronym that you want to remember to very simply go through the deal clock, even if you can't memorize all of the 12 steps or 11 steps. And that is CARA. C-A-R-A. CARA. Good way to remember this is almost like asking Siri on your iPhone. This is like asking CARA. And so quarter 1, which is say like 1 o'clock through 3 o'clock on the deal clock, stands for connect. If you want to think of that as a core theme, that's really what this quarter is all about. It's connection with your buyer, connection with the decision maker. It's setting the tone, it's setting the theme, it's setting the energy levels that you want to maintain. Because here's the key part of connection is it's all about positioning yourself as a win-win provider, essentially a consultant. You want to take a consultative approach with project selling and position yourself that you're there to provide a win-win. And what I mean by that is there's good, fair exchange, there's equal value, but be mindful of the tone that you set at this first quarter, because if you go in too serious, if your pitch and your tonality is too low, that's where the conversation's going to stay. It's pretty hard to break out of it. So one of the best things that you can do at this point, if you think of the theme of connection, it's about being yourself. It's about chilling out a little bit. It's about making sure that your tone and your pitch is high enough, it's warm, it's enthusiastic. It's ultimately okay to have a little bit of fun here as well. I'm not saying get completely caught up in small talk. It's not the way to build rapport. It's more just like get to know the person who's on the other end of the table, on the other end of the phone. Embrace curiosity and you'll find that connection takes care of itself. So that's quarter 1, connection. Quarter 2, which is like 3 o'clock through to 6 o'clock on the deal clock, is about ask. Connect, ask. And ask is when you're simply asking a whole bunch of questions, not rocket science here, where you're starting to gather intelligence about what's going on in their life. And if you remember back to the whole point A, point C conversation, this is very much where this kind of gets uncovered. And depending on how well you connect in quarter 1 will determine how much information they give you in quarter 2, how open they are to sharing all the details. So that's what you want to kind of figure out here is like, what problem are they trying to solve here? Like, what are their challenges? How can you ultimately help them go from point A to point Z and position yourself as that ultimate point B? Okay, so that's connect, ask. Once you've gathered all the intelligence and we move to quarter 3, which is like 6 o'clock through 9 o'clock, this is all you need to think about, and that is repeat. Connect, ask, repeat. And when you're repeating, all you're essentially doing is grabbing the information that you've gathered. I would recommend that you're always taking notes, whether in person, on a face-to-face meeting, on the phone, whatever it may be. You're grabbing the key pieces of information that you've drawn out of them through good questioning, and you're simply repeating back to them in a more eloquent way. Because here's the cool part about it. If you can essentially share back what's going on in someone's mind and head and heart, and we can grab all the mess that they may be talking about, and then you can deliver it back to them in a really simple way through your proposal, through voice, like repeating back. Cool, so what you're saying is, etc., etc. You'll find that they go, that's exactly it. Where have you been all my life? That's quarter 3. We're gonna go into more detail. So connect, ask, repeat, and then the final quarter, which is 9 through 12, is agree. And that's all you need to do. Whether it's a pitch, a presentation, right through to the full sale, all you're looking to do is to find a place of agreement. An agreement is simply trying to line up a few different factors: where they're at, where you're at, how you can collaborate together, how you can find common ground, and essentially how you can leave with some form of agreement, whether that's the next steps or whether that's actually the commitment to move forward. So they're the 4 key quarters of the deal clock: connect, ask, repeat, agree. And you'll find even just that in your mind will help you ensure that you don't get ahead of yourself, because this is a big part of the deal clock. It's taking a sequential approach to having a conversation. It's teaching you how to think, not so much what to say. And once we go into this next video and break it right down for you, you notice that there's some really cool outcomes that will happen in a way of you working out what you may have missed and where to focus in on the next conversation so that the deal progresses every single time. So that's the goal. So hope you're taking notes. Connect, ask, repeat, agree. That's the 4 quarters. We're going to dive into them step by step, and you'll see how this really comes to life. Cool. 12 o'clock's deal time, we've gathered that. So let's kick off with 1 o'clock on the deal clock, and that is prospecting. And prospecting is essentially you going out into a marketplace, being proactive by nature, and exploring how you can fill your pipeline. It's critical that you always have a pipeline that's bigger than you ever need. Typically where your sales challenges are going to be is in one of 3 areas. 1, your pipeline's not full enough. 2, you're not converting the opportunity that you are getting, meaning it never progresses or you lose it to a competitor. Or 3, you're losing the business you've already got, meaning you've got clients that are falling out the other end. There could be some levels of commitment, or let's say you've got ongoing business that all of a sudden disappears. That's traditionally because of that perceived indifference. They don't feel valued, you're not communicating frequently enough with them, you don't believe in the brightness of their future, but also it may be that you're trying to be more interesting than interested. So prospecting is quite simple when you get a few key pieces of psychology right. And essentially it's intrigue, okay? Intrigue is what you're really looking to work towards. Because without any form of intrigue, you're not going to have attention, and without attention, you don't get time. If you want to take notes, they're kind of the 3 key areas. You get a marketplace intrigued about how you can help them, problem solution type conversations, or at least giving value to them. From that, they start to give you attention, and from attention, they give you time. So when you're at the very start of a sales conversation, this also works from like a very initial inbound lead, but mostly from an outbound lead, whether you're pursuing a tender or whatever it may be. All you need to be thinking about is, how do I get their attention and how do I get some time with them? That's it. Don't think about your service offering. Don't think about your product. Don't think about price. Don't think about all the things that happen next, proposals, etc., etc. All you're thinking about is like, man, how do I get 30 minutes with the decision maker? What can I do to create some intrigue? And I'll tell you the best way to do this is by adding value to them. Another way you can do this is by giving them the entree, but not the main course. The way you do this is by saying something along the lines of, hey, Mr. Customer, your name came up in conversation with mutual contract the other day. I wanted to reach out because I know that you're going to be working on XYZ. I've actually got a few ideas on how you can achieve outcome. When would be a great time to catch up? 10, 15 minutes. I want to run you through the couple of ideas I have. Now that's like the entree. You're like, I know you're working on something. I know this is what's been on mind. Got some ideas for you. That's the entree. Then you don't give them the main course. You don't tell them what the ideas are until they agree to see you. Another good way of prospecting is going old school, and you'll read about this in the opposite effect that you get access to with this program. Send information packs in the mail, whether it's a company overview or some case studies, or even better with a personalized handwritten note. You can imagine right now you're getting bombarded with digital. Emails are flying through left, right, and center, as well as like social content, social media content. You're not getting many mail, like letters in the mail today. So that can be a great way to stand out from the crowd. And again, it's intrigue. You're like, oh, I wonder what's in this package, you know, particularly if it's like a nice A4 document and maybe it's a lumpy mail, I mean, you've got some other pieces of information in there. Like, these are creative ways to do it. So that's what prospecting is all about. It's simply about getting attention with the decision maker. Do your research, be proactive here, and ultimately think about ways to add value to them early so it creates an element of intrigue, okay? There's a tool later on as far as the resources go, where I'm giving you access to a tool I created called the Prospect Compass. There's a great way that you can actually, map the best practice customer journey. And there's a few tips in there as well. And of course, you've got access to the Future of Selling book here that you can just open up to the first few chapters around prospecting, as far as some great ways to get the doors open and away you go. That's 1 o'clock. Prospecting, time and attention by creating intrigue. Be creative here. Next up, we're moving to 2 o'clock. And 2 o'clock is when we're simply building rapport with the decision maker. Now, this is where a lot of people are challenged, is you need to identify early, are you spending time with the right types of buyers? And 2, who may be the informers, who may be the influencers, who may be the blockers, okay? So when you're talking about larger projects, particularly big fish unicorns, you're gonna find that there's more people involved than just one. And sometimes we get stuck dealing with nothing but an informer. And an informer is someone who just collates information and gives it to the decision maker. Own levels of self-belief and confidence, your own believability, your own technical knowledge and experience, okay? So it's about identifying early who's involved. The best way to do this is LinkedIn, so actively searching for the companies and who the employees are. Second thing is Google searches and looking for articles, their website, etc., who may be involved. Another way you can do this is by exploring who are the third-party contacts that are around the deal, so who knows who type of scenario, and making some outbound contacts to them and seeing if they might be able to help you out. The last part is simply asking, like the people that you're dealing with, whether they're an informer or whether they're an influencer, by simply asking what's the process on their end, like what's the backstory and how do they go about it moving forward. And sometimes they'll just simply tell you what it is that they're working towards. So that's a bit of the tactical area. The psychology that you need to be in when you're moving to 2 o'clock and getting the best outcome is to position yourself as a problem solver, as someone that wants to go in, explore what their challenges are, explore what their pain points are, and position yourself early to be the person who wants to help them solve that problem, bridge those gaps between point A and point C. A really effective way of doing this is notepads and pens are your best friends. So if you're going into a face-to-face meeting, ensure you've always got a notepad, always got a pen, even on a phone call or a Zoom call, and just dive straight in by taking notes. So many deals that I've done and some of my students have done has been so easy because they walk into a meeting and be like, cool, so tell me about what you're working on, or tell me about this project, or tell me about your business, how's everything going? And as soon as you just start taking notes, you'll find some interesting things happen. One, they feel really important and valued simply because you're taking the time to write what they're saying. That's a big part of it. But 2 is understanding how influence occurs. It's a pretty simple formula, but it's this. Whoever's asking questions is in control, whoever's doing all the talking is buying, and whoever's embracing silence is influencing. The strange part about that is what takes longer, talking or writing? Well, pretty straightforward, right? It always takes longer to talk than write. So if you're naturally asking the questions and then writing the answers, that half a second where you're like, oh, cool, so tell me about this project. that little half a second where nobody's saying anything, you'll find often they feel obligated to try and fill the air. So they keep telling you more and more and more, which gives you more and more things to write. And literally you might get to the end of the conversation where they're like, wow, I've just told you everything. I didn't intend to do that, but it just happened. That's the power of influence. That's 2 o'clock. It's about finding out who's involved, have you got a connection with the decision maker? Do they like and trust you? Like, have you got that connection going? A good way of doing it is by exploring the bigger picture, but also then asking those open questions and taking plenty of notes through the process, all the while priming yourself to start moving into the problem solution scenario, okay? So that's 2 o'clock, rapport. 3 o'clock is when we move into gathering intelligence. And I want you to know that as we're entering into 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, you want to almost experience time slowing down, okay? You know, this sales process isn't 12 literal hours. Figuratively speaking, things should slow down, or the conversation should be like nicely paced, but just chilled when you're asking a whole bunch of questions at 3, 4, and 5. So 3 o'clock is just about gathering intelligence, and what you're looking for here is what's their true needs? What are those core parts that you need to draw out from them in a very natural way so that you've got everything you need to start building the foundation of the deal. And I like to think of a very simple acronym called MANTS, M-A-N-T-S-C, MANTS. And they stand for money, meaning what's the money side of things here, budget, dollars, like what's all of that about with this project. A stands for authority, so like who's going to be making the decision here, or who, multiple, plural, people are going to be making the decision here, so that's the authority. N is the need, so like what's the problem gap here, like what's the need that they need taken care of, the problem to be solved. T is the time frame, what's the project schedule look like, when will they be making a decision, when do they want this all fulfilled, so time frame. S stands for size, because we know size matters in this case, so start to explore the size of the deal, the size of the project, what are all the numbers associated with that. And then the C stands for competition, and you may not be having the conversation with your client about this. Sometimes it's appropriate, but it's more of a behind the scenes thing to think about, who am I up against here? Like, who are my competitors? How can I ensure that I leverage my unfair advantages and hone in on the core value drivers that we've explored previously in the previous modules, because that's going to ensure that you separate yourself from the competition. But secondly, you'll notice if rapport's done well, you'll start to figure out, are they a money person? Are they a time person? Are they a risk person? Are they a partnership, collaboration, get further together person? Or are they an ego, build identity person? And so when you start to explore that, after you've done MANTS, money, authority, need, time, size, competition, you'll have a good understanding then of the foundation of the deal. Because you don't want to get to the end of the deal clock and realize, oh, I had no idea who the authority was, or I had no idea about the money side of things. So that's 3 o'clock. 4 o'clock is when we build the logical case. And the logical case in this regard is point A to point C conversation in detail, but ensuring that you talk about logic, which is numbers, which is specific or measurable gaps. What are the measurable gaps that you can see here? And you'll find that when this happens well and you introduce this at 4 o'clock, it's very natural because the brain always likes to start with logic. The way decisions are made is essentially we start with a logical foundation. From the logical foundation, we start to get invested emotionally. We make a decision based on the emotion, but it's quickly justified by the logic. Meaning if there's not a logical case, an airtight logical case where it makes sense, you will find that even if they make a decision with you, they'll resent it, they'll try and find ways to avoid going through with it, or they'll find ways to just move ahead and move on. So the logical case is exploring the money, the time in a little bit more detail, anything that's measurable, anything that's about numbers. In my case as a sales consultant, this is where I start talking about what's your revenue levels right now, where are we intending to go, okay, we've got a deficit here and it's the problem, right? I'm at 10 million, I want to be at 15 million, cool. So we need to start exploring how we're going to bridge this $5 million gap. Okay, it's about giving them the problem on the platter. Really practical way you can do this if you're note taking, which hopefully you are, is you draw a line down the middle. On the left-hand column, write the dot points, the logical gaps of where they are now, okay? Size, revenue, other things that you can measure, time frames. And on the right-hand side, you ask them, cool, so what are you hoping to achieve here? What's the most important things to you when it comes to blank, something logical? You write it on the right-hand column. Between those two is the gap, is the problems. You've got equal notes on both sides, point A and point C, it's going to be well balanced, okay? So if you only ever talk about where they are now and never talk about where they want to be, they won't have the contrast to buy. Likewise, if you only ever talk about where they want to be, but you don't talk about where they are now, they, again, flip side, they don't have the contrast. So what you're finding here in 4 o'clock is the specific measurable gaps. And you'll notice this is based on the first 3 core value drivers, which is essentially the money side of things, how you're going to make them money, how you're going to save them time or the time equation for it, whether it's the Gantt chart or the project schedule. But you're also going to start to look about risk. What risks do they face? What risk exposure are you both going into? And how can you mitigate that for them? 5 o'clock is the same thing, but it's the emotional case. And this is where we're looking at the intangible gaps between the two. Essentially what you're looking for here is to position yourself as an authority figure who can be trusted. And the way you position yourself as an authority figure who can be trusted is to simply show that you know them, you know their situation, you know and can forecast the challenges that they have, and you know how to solve them. And when you do this, this is so much about your own levels of self-belief and confidence, your own believability, your own technical knowledge and experience, and showing them that you can be trusted. And it's so much about how you sound, it's so much about how you position yourself here. But when you're asking them what you want to be okay with is understanding that if they're looking to buy, on some level they're in pain. I'll say it again, if they're looking to buy, on some level they're in pain. Be okay to let them feel pain. An example of this could be if they're switching suppliers. They used to work with your competitor, now they want to work with you because they haven't had a great experience. Don't just try and band-aid and be like, yeah, no problem, we'll take care of that. Ask them like, so how did it go last time? I'm curious to know, why are you looking to change? And they're like, yeah, well, last project was terrible. Cost us a heap of money, they let us down, project overrun. That must have sucked. They're like, yeah, no, it did. It was the worst thing ever. And you're just like, ouch. Like, let them feel pain, because without it, they won't buy. And that's the big part of that game. So point A to point C emotionally is where you move into that. Cool, we're nearly halfway around. 6 o'clock, once we've established 3, 4, and 5, Mance, logical case, emotional case, by this point they should be airtight. So like locked down, perfect. Like you should have a lot of notes at this point and a really solid understanding of what it is that they're all about, who they're all about, what it is they're trying to solve, what problems that they have. We now move to 6 o'clock and this is halfway around the deal clock. And this is all you need to do at this point. You go, based on everything you said, yeah, certain we can help you. And the way I see it is, you're looking at here and you want to be here. Most important things for you is X, Y, and Z. Really, at the end of the day, you're looking for Y and delivered by Z. And a couple of things that we need to make sure that we tick off for you is A, B, C. Does that sound about right? And they're going to be doing this. That's exactly what it is. Because all you're doing is repeating, okay, this is the start of the repeat quarter, you're repeating back to them in a more succinct way the last 35-minute conversation. This is the juicy bits. This is the most important parts to you, yeah? If you want to ensure that you hit this every time, back between 3, 4, and 5 o'clock, just simply ask them, great, so when it comes to this project and maybe working with someone like us, what would be the most important things to you? And when they answer that and you've written them down and you repeat that back, it's going to change the game for you. It's going to make it so much easier for you here when it comes to those 3 most important things and also the agreement phase, okay? So 6 o'clock, all you're doing is repeating back some of the key notes, saying, cool, based on everything you said, certainly can definitely help you here. From the way I see it, what you're looking for is ... Does that sound about right? Or have I missed anything? They're gonna go, yeah, perfect. No, that's exactly what we need. You'll notice that 6 o'clock is virtually impossible if you haven't done a good job of 3, 4, and 5. You'll notice this whole deal clock methodology is about building blocks. And so if you skip steps, the foundation hasn't been laid, the house will fall over. So that's 6 o'clock. 7 o'clock is a very interesting part, but a beautiful part of the sales process if you've done 1 o'clock through 6 o'clock really well. This is what we refer to as the trial close. And the trial close, I can tell you right now, like 1 in 1,000 salespeople do, because one, it takes a fair bit of preparation beforehand, as you can hear. But secondly, it takes a little bit of courage to ask, but I promise you, the people that really dive into the trial close, and they do it at this specific point of the sales process, and they deliver it with conviction and a level of warmth, it's a game changer. And the people that do it win so much more business than those that don't. And that is simply this. So after you've repeated all of the steps, they've gone, they've nodded their head 37,000 times, and they're like, that's exactly what we want. 7 o'clock is you go, yeah, perfect. So if we can tick all the boxes for you in regards to time frame, delivery, price, all those 3 key points you were just saying before, hey, you're happy to partner with us if everything lines up. And at that point, you realize it's kind of a pretty bulletproof question, because essentially they've just agreed with you of all the key points that you've drawn out. You've just then said, great, so if we can tick all the boxes for you in regards to important detail, 1, 2, 3, time frame, delivery, price, scope, whatever it may be that's important and relevant to them. And then you go ahead and say, are you happy to partner with us if everything lines up? It puts them in a position where it's a no-brainer for them to say yes at this point. And this is a key point where we get to commitment. Okay, this is the first major micro agreement, or the first major micro commitment, because essentially they're saying, yeah, I'd love to partner with you guys. By the way, have we talked really about price in detail? No, we've explored maybe some budgetary stuff at the start, but we haven't given them a specific proposal yet. Have we gone into real detail about what it is that you're actually presenting to do for them? No. All you've had is a really decent, robust conversation. Here's where sales goes from like, I hope people buy, to like gaining commitment before you've even gone to the proposal phase. Sales mastery is when people are saying things like, yeah, I'm looking forward to working with you, before you've even sent them a proposal. And when you do this deal clock well, and you follow the steps accurately, and you take the time and you know it, you do the connect, and you do the ask, and you do the repeat, you'll find you will literally get people say to you, looking forward to working with you, and you haven't even sent them a proposal yet. That's the goal. That's the power of a trial close that is well timed by saying these type of things. So that's what you're looking for here. You'll see on your warm app, it's got the little script in there. It's actually got those little tips all the way around, but that's what we're looking for here. So 8 o'clock is presentation. So after you've got the commitment, the trial close, and they said, yeah, we're definitely happy to partner with you. Oh, by the way, if they're like, not yet, all you need to do is say, yeah, no, that's no trouble at all. And go back to 3 o'clock by saying, what have I missed? Okay, that's a quick little tip just in case they do, but promise you, if you do this well, 999 out of 1,000 will say, yeah, happy to, because why else would they? That's the little caveat just in case. So 8 o'clock is when we move to presentation, and this is when we start to show them things. Typically, you're going to be pointing them to something visual, you're going to be pointing them to something tangible, you're going to be sharing some information with them, you might even be solving some problems for them on a small scale, you'll be guiding them to a certain section of your company overview or the documents that you have to support your sale. And essentially it's this, you're showing them something that is personalized, that is tailored, that is like hand in glove, perfect for all the detail we've just found. No one likes it when you just blindly point them to all the information, because remember, people when they're buying are only looking to solve one problem, and your job is to gather really that by now. So you're honing them in with your core value drivers. Let's say you've met with John, and John's all about making money, and you've done the whole deal clock process. When you get to 8 o'clock, you might be showing them, presenting, demonstrating specifically how you can help John make more money. Okay, that's what I mean by the presentation phase. And at this point, they should be like, where have you been all my life? Like, this is perfect. This is exactly what I want. What you don't want to see is people glazed over on the phone or in person by you pointing them to all the things you can do, or all the pieces of the information, or all the things that are relevant to your project, your product, or your service offering. I don't care. That's why it's important that you leave 8 o'clock to where it's meant to be. Stage 8, it's a fair way around the sales process, rather than going straight from the beginning, let's look at this, let's look at that, let's look at that. It's not gonna work. That's the key. Point them to specifics and they'll love you for it. So that's 8 o'clock. 9 o'clock is when we start to deliver a proposal. And a proposal should be complete, it should be tailored, it should be marketing led, it should be personalized, it should have the detail that's required and everything they need to do business with you. Definitely would recommend that you have a look at the chapter on proposal in the Future of Selling book. It goes right into some detail here on how you can best set up your proposals, but you want to make sure it's fast, you want to make sure it's personalized. And some great software you can use if you don't have a whole bunch of software around proposal templates is a program called Proposify. It has some smarts around it, it has heat mapping, it notifies you when people are opening your proposals, when they're sending it to people. You can embed videos into it, shows you how long they've been on each page, how many times did they visit it. It has a click to sign acceptance button. It's a beautiful piece of software. We use it all the time and so do some of our clients. But that just gives you insights on like how far you can go with your proposal to have it being marketing led. And definitely from this day forth, I never want you to say the word quote again. There's a funny thing about the word quote is you're priming your buyer to naturally think about price, that they're going to go get more prices, that it's a piece of paper, it can be take it or leave it, it's generic, whereas proposal is so much more tailored. It's an offer. Can you imagine if you met your partner and you planned this amazing engagement, you picked out the ring that's personalized and tailored, you know the setting, you've planned the day, the time, what you're gonna wear, you might have even got someone ready to film the proposal, the asking of the will you marry me, you plan it all, and then you get to the point, you get down on one knee, you say, honey, I love you, I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Here's a quote. They'd be like, what the heck are you talking about? That's not a proposal. Business is no different. You think it all through, you craft it, you personalize it, you do it in a way that you know that they are going to enjoy and resonate with and go, this is amazing. And then you get to the point at the end where you've done your pitch and your presentation and all the stuff throughout it, and you say, will you marry me? A good person proposing will shut up at that point and wait for the answer. Business is the same. Go through all the stuff, make it look good, polish it up, get the haircut, buy the better clothes, get the rose, get all the stuff that you would do, and then get to the point where you ask them to do business. That's a good proposal, okay? Definitely more details there, but that's the key here. No quotes, proposals. Make sure that they're more than just a piece of paper, particularly when we're talking about big fish, unicorns, even bread and butter. Put your best foot forward here. 10 o'clock, we start to move to negotiation if we have to. Sometimes you won't, but negotiation is essentially all you're trying to do is line things up. This is the agreement phase, yeah? All you're trying to do is find out what you can agree on, what you're slightly off on, and how can you collaborate to make it work. A way you do this is tell your buyer that you'd love to work with them and you're willing to work out ways to make it work for both of us. You're looking for a win-win here. So if something's not lining up, let's chat about it. Let's explore how we can work about it. How is a great way to negotiate. And essentially what you're looking here for is terms first and price second. Sometimes what happens is when we're negotiating, all we're doing is diving into price. It's never the sole reason for purchasing. It's never the sole reason for making any decision. It's a factor, and sometimes it's an important factor, but terms are more important here. Terms are like the time frames and the details, the inclusions, the exclusions, are things lining up or not. And if you've got good rapport with your buyer and you're finding that you're in a competitive landscape where they're saying, hey, XYZ company is a lot more competitive here, all you need to do is say, I'd love to work at how we can work together here. I feel like that we can do some great business together. I know that we can take care of core value driver, hone in on key discussion, 3 most important things, so repeat. But if you wouldn't mind, I'd love for you to send their proposal. You can take out all the pricing. I don't need to see that. That's between you and them. I just want to have a look at scope. I want to have a look at detail and just make sure that we're lining things up here, because in our experience, if there's that much difference between our proposal and their proposal, like for like, we're actually most of the time, 99% of the time, more competitive. And so I'd love to help you here. I'd love to see what, maybe we have overspec'd, maybe what they haven't included, and this will give you some insights. If you've got good rapport with your buyer and you've removed the price thing by telling them to white it out, they may even send you the competitor's proposal, which is another massive commitment. Why would they bother sending you their proposal if they didn't want to work with you? So that's negotiation. It's about being creative. It's about finding areas you can agree on first and build from there. So a way you can do this is by saying, cool, glad you told me, love to see how we can go about working together. Hey, what can we agree on so far? What are you liking about the proposal? Of course they're gonna be liking something. They'll be like, yeah, well actually I like how you've done that. The only thing that's holding back is why. And then you can narrow it down. Another thing with negotiation is whenever someone's trying to take, make sure there's equal give. I'll give you an example of this. If someone's like, okay, you need to reduce your price here, ensure that you don't just dive straight into like, all right, I'll see what I can do with the numbers. Ensure that you ask a close and say, cool, so if I can reduce that price down, I want to dive into the numbers for you here. I can't promise that we can, but if I can do that, would you be happy to place some orders with us? Would you be happy to partner with us on this project? That's like the give and take that we're working on here. Don't just dive into one side of the equation. It has to be 51-49 because that's what the negotiation is all about. That's what fair exchange is all about. 11 o'clock is the close. So once you've taken care of the negotiation, 11 o'clock is when we're simply moving into the close. And literally I have one. And this one close has served me for a decade. We've shared it with thousands of salespeople. I don't know how many times it'd be used, but it simply works. And that is this, a very simple process to get started, comma. All I need from you is the simplest, tangible, logical thing you need to get started, whether it's a signed confirmation, whether it's option A or option B, confirmation of some dates and timeframes, whatever it may be. And then I can tell them what you're going to do next, whether it's time frame, booking it into production, setting up your project management, whatever it may be. Enter, how does that sound? This has been painstakingly put together word for word. You'll see it's on the poster on your wall map as a reference point. I've written it in detail in the Future of Selling book, which will tell you exactly why we've used it word for word. I think you'll really, appreciate how we've put it together and how it will work for you if you embrace it. Because here's your last tip. The last thing you want to do from this day forth is say these words. Please don't hesitate to contact me if you have any questions or queries. The worst language pattern of all time when it comes to closing business. Why? The word don't doesn't get processed by the brain. It's like going to Google and saying, don't show me anything, enter. It'll show you about 1 billion results. The brain works the same way. I'll give you an example of this. Whatever you do, try your absolute hardest. Don't think of a camel. Don't think of a jet ski. You'll always think of it, whatever it is it may be. The brain can't handle it. It gives you pictures. And so when you say, please don't hesitate to contact me if you have any questions or queries, what you're doing is they're going, okay, got some questions, but better please hesitate. And the other way you've primed them, if you've gone back to the whole quote thing, is your typical email script is like, hey John, thanks for the opportunity. Quotes attached. Please don't hesitate to contact me if you have any questions or queries. You've primed them with the word quote to look for what? The price. So you double click on the attachment, they go, where's the price? Scroll, scroll, scroll. They find it. There's either a good experience or a not so good experience. They go, better have some questions, better not ask XXX. They're back into the inbox and never to be seen again. So there's a full email script that's in the book attachment. And I've also put it down below of a way that you can put out the body of your email, even better, hand-delivered proposal. But that's a high-level overview as well as a somewhat deep overview of the deal clock sales methodology. I'm going to show you its secret weapon on how you can analyze each deal to work out exactly what you need to do in the next conversation to move the sale forward. I hope you found a heap of value in this as a sales process. Coolest part, as you can see here, is it's a way of conducting a conversation rather than telling you exactly what to say at each point. This allows you to be yourself, which I think is a critically important part of a consultative sales approach, but trust it gives you the structure or the building blocks to think through in a sequential way. You know how to think rather than what to say. In this video, I want to show you the secret power of the deal clock sales methodology. And this is a way that you can get super tactical in your follow-ups, in your next step presentations, in the way that you're trying to move business forward. I stumbled across this by chance. It wasn't by design. I wish it was, but I just want to be transparent with you here. It goes right into detail once again in the Future of Selling book about how the opposite effect, which was a book I wrote a couple of years earlier than the Future of Selling book, and how the opposite effect work on the deal clock. The opposite effect is by nature, if you ever want to stand out in any given way, or an interesting thing about the paradoxes that I consistently see in life and business is that a lot of the answers are found in fact doing the exact opposite, okay? And so what you'll notice is wherever you are stuck on the deal clock, let's say that your proposal, for example, hasn't landed. It's just not perfectly resonating with your buyer and they're just like, yeah, whatever. All you need to do is look to the opposite side of the clock and that's exactly what you've missed, okay? And in this case, we're talking about gathering intelligence, okay? So we're going from proposal across to gathering intelligence. The reason why your proposal hasn't landed that well is we didn't ask enough questions. We didn't gather enough intelligence to put together the winning proposal. Well, let's say your negotiation isn't lining up. It's not working that well for you. Can't see eye to eye. What's the opposite side? The logical case. You haven't built a strong enough logical case back there because let's face it, negotiation is logical. Let's say you just can't get the deal closed. It's not nudging forward. It's close, but they're just not really willing to commit to it. You know, they don't have that drive to go, let's do it. You know, there's hesitation, there's uncertainty. All you need to do is look to the opposite side of the clock and what you're missing is the emotional case. They don't feel that connection. They don't have that high level of trust. So work on that. Let's say your presentation's going terribly. They're just bored out of their brain. Their arms are crossed and folded. They're just like, ugh, what's this? What don't you have? Rapport. You know, you'll see all the way around the clock, there's this funny correlation with the opposite side. And so a way that you can really practice this is whenever you're strategizing on a deal, look at your war map on the wall. Have it all filled out. Follow the steps around the deal clock and ask yourself, where am I stuck? And therefore, what's the opposite? On the next phone call, on the next presentation, the next meeting, go back and clarify some things back there. And you'll find that when you go to the opposite side of the clock, clarify it, you'll find that it triggers forward and allows you to remove the blockage to get to the next stage of the deal. So that's the secret power of the deal clock sales methodology. And at the end of this program, you're going to see a big resources portal. Part of that is the Project Compass app that we've developed. And what it is it's a decision-making tool for you to manage your top 10 sales opportunities, and it'll help you work out what you're missing by prompting you with some really easy yes/no questions. And depending on how you answer them, it'll spit out the strategy for you and maintain your hot list. And so that's another good way of actually practicing the deal clock sales methodology and becoming familiar with it is by jumping in and downloading the Project Compass app. And once again, you'll see in the resource section how you can go about it. We're going to shoot a walkthrough video for you there. It's a great way to start thinking strategically about how you can move the deal forward. So there it is. That's the secret power. Use it wisely and I think it'll serve you very well.